amazing amount of value is going to be building out from this stage, like you just received from Kevin, right? Did you get some value from Kevin? Yeah. Right? So Kevin is going to come up here, and because this next speaker has had such a huge impact on your life, I want you to tell everybody about him and introduce him. How's that?
Well, this is fun.
See? I just thought.
All right, Shaun, you ready?
Ready.
All right. So, man, Shaun, I was at AREA, and this is, I moved back to St. Louis. I started having kids. I was fumbling around in the general contracting world, which I alluded to there. I go to this event, I'm sitting in the back, and there's a speaker. And he's there, he's doing his thing, selling his program. He was selling this package of coaching, right? I think it was a couple $1,000s. It was $2,000. Actually, I think is what it was. And it was, I'll be honest, it was $2,000 I didn't have, right? It was nowhere close to anything I had. It might as well have been $1 million, right? It was one of those things. It was something that just was out of reach. But seeing him and his authenticity and what he was trying to share wasn't like everybody else. Do you understand the difference? There's some people you just click with. And I was like, man, I want him. I can't afford him. I barely afford the paper that he's selling. Actually, it was a thumb drive, I believe. I had to print it off, which was another $70. I'll send you a bill. There's a lot of paper there. I'll be honest, I listen to CDs more. But honestly, I listened to it over and over and over and over again until the words were just ingrained in my head. The vernacular, just the way you talk, the way you do all this stuff, because I just poured into it. And that was the start. One of the exercises was take a piece of paper and write on it. I actually incorporated my world now. As of today, I'm a successful real estate investor, signed and dated, right? And today I am a successful real estate investor, right? And it was some of the stuff to be on same stages as these guys that you're getting today and tomorrow is amazing. To be able to introduce unexpectedly one of the guys who really helped you go from just a guy sitting in the back to somebody actively in the world, it's awesome. Years later, with his new company, Leadership Boardroom, Shaun was talking. I had a partner at the time, and he basically did, hey, I'm selling this coaching. And it wasn't a question of should we, it was like, hell yeah, let's do it. And it was amazing for me. I mean, it really didn't matter what he said, the number was, but it was like, I have it, I will buy it. Just one of those, like, I have the full thing, not just this watered down piece of paper. So it is awesome that Shaun, you've been a mentor and a coach to me, which is great. You're actually a coach to a lot of the people I work with or around, which is also cool. But the fact that he was on the podcast, he was like, the first time that I was recording, it was Dave and Shaun. Like, the fact that I get to introduce you is awesome, man. This is like full circle for me. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to stand up, give a large round of applause. I was like, what's it called? Clap your hands for Shaun McCloskey.
Hello, how y'all feeling? How's the event going so far? Great. You guys got 9 days left? Oh my gosh. It's been a long day? You guys learned a lot? Yeah. Good. All right, I'm going to share a few things with you here I've learned over the years. I started real estate investing here in St. Louis in 2003. And I've now been coaching business owners, a lot of real estate investors, national speakers, people who run national coaching programs, things like that. It's my 18th year of coaching. So what I'm here today to share with you all is kind of what works and also what does not work. Because as a coach for this long, 18 years, I see patterns over and over and over again of people who are doing things really well and people who are exhausted and worn out at the end of each day. I see patterns of people who are making money really well, and I see patterns of people who are bringing in a lot of money and don't get to keep a lot of money. And I also see patterns of people who don't make any money and still stay in that place. And so, you guys want to learn some of those patterns? Yeah? All right, cool. So, let me back up just a little bit. I'm going to share a quick story, a couple of quick stories, and then we'll get into some content. I have two people that I've coached over the years, and you tell me which one you'd rather be. I've got one gentleman that flips about 3 houses, maybe 4 per year. Maybe 4, usually it's 3. Pretty simple. He doesn't do a whole heck of a lot in his business. 3 deals. Anybody can do that. Got another student that flips about 150 deals a year. Just based on that information alone, which one do you think you'd rather be?
First.
3. First? Let me add some information to it. So the first guy flips 3 houses a year, maybe 4. He will not do a deal unless he can make at least 6 figures on the deal, at least 100 grand net after all expenses are paid. That gentleman has no house payment, no car payment, no debt of any kind. He doesn't use any debt in his business at all. He's basically got no bills whatsoever, so he makes minimum $300,000 per year net, and he gets to do with all of it whatever he wants. Now, he's got some taxes to pay, but if you do things smart, you can actually avoid a lot of those as well. So, doesn't sound too bad, right? Guy who flips about 150 houses a year, has about 30 employees, has an office space, spends about 25 grand a month in marketing, has a lot of expenses to run the business. And that guy who flips 150 houses a year, now granted, some of it's building some long-term stuff with rentals and things like that, but he only pays himself about 350 grand a year because of his expenses in the business. Now, which one would you rather be? Okay. Well, this is always interesting because I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong in this, but what I will tell you is that some people think that more is better. It's not always the case. I've got other clients that I coach that have a really fantastic life on 100 grand a year. And I'm telling you, if you keep your expenses low, 100 grand a year actually goes quite a long way. And anybody in here, I don't care if you're brand new, I don't care who you are, anybody in here, if you're in the real estate world, can make 100 grand a year. Any idiot can do this, right? The seasoned ones, the ones who are starting to do real well, you can make 250 to 300. The really good ones can make 500 grand or so. But if you're in the flipping world only, if you're buying a house and turn around, let's say you're renovating it or wholesaling or whatever, in order to make $1 million per year and do it consistently, it's really tough. You've got to either add something else to it. I've got a lot of people who've made $1 million in a year before. I've got people I've coached that have made $1 million in a year. But for them to be able to do it consistently every single year is really, really hard. There's got to be something else added to it, some other form of income. So I'm going to talk about some things like that. There's patterns in all these people. You decide what you want to be. It doesn't matter to me at all. Some people want, how many of you would like to have a very small, easy to run business? By the way, I should mention, the first guy flips 3 houses a year. He works about 10, 15 hours a week, sometimes 20. Depends on the projects and how many of them are going on at once. He only does 3 deals a year. He spends a lot of time with his kids. That's really important to him. They vacation usually a month to a month and a half straight in the summer. Usually takes another trip every 3 to 4 months, either with his wife or friends or something else with the family for about a week at a time. He's got a great life. How many of you want something simple like that? That sounds great. Okay, who in here goes, man, that ain't enough for me. I want to build something bigger. I want more of an empire. I want something really that's going to feed me long term, and I want to build something that's going to leave a legacy. How many of you in here want to build something bigger? All right, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's the case, there's patterns and there's people that you need to learn from to make sure you're doing it the proper way. Make sense? All right. One more example. So when I started building my business in 2003, I wanted to start getting into real estate. I had a corporate job I was a sales manager for a corporate company for the previous 7 years. And I loved it for about 5 of those years. But the last 2 years sucked the life out of me. Who in here has a job still? Let me see hands. Who has a job? Okay, interesting. About half of you. Who in here, if you won the lottery tomorrow, would quit their job tomorrow? And would anybody stay? Anybody stay at your job? One guy on drugs. Good. It's Rich. This is his job. He loves what he does. But it's not a job. He runs his own thing. That's not quite the same thing. But here's the thing. If you have a job and you love it, that's great. But if you have a job and you don't, why are you still there? Yes, I need the income. It's fear of, okay, there's a lot of different reasons. Here's what I would suggest to you. If you're at your job that you don't like, and you're staying there. Or even in a position in your own company and you're still doing it. You don't love every single thing that you do. Something that you've built requires you to stay in that position. And usually it's the lifestyle that you've created for yourself. So if you can't leave your job, most of the time the reason is you can't leave it because you've built a lifestyle that requires you to have the salary from that job in order to maintain your lifestyle. So if you want to leave the job, you've got two choices. You can either make a whole bunch more money, which you can do, or you can reduce your lifestyle a little bit and make it easier to quit your job to where you don't need as much to get by. Okay? I know that's simple. But I call that the golden handcuffs. When you have some kind of role that you're in or a position that you're in that you don't enjoy doing, but you feel like you have to do it, you've built the golden handcuffs all the way around you. You can't do anything about it. So, well, you can, but you can't doing things the same way that you've been doing them. This is what I built my business to do. So in 2003, I went to my first seminar ever. It was $4,000 to go to. Kind of like Kevin was saying up here, I didn't have $4,000. I put money on my credit card to go to this event. And it was a really good event. It was put on by a lady named Wendy Patton. So I flew out to Phoenix, again with money I didn't have, to go to this 4-day event. I learned how to do lease options. And it was a fantastic event. I learned a lot, came home, started implementing like crazy. And pretty soon, within, I don't know, a handful of months, I did my first deal. It was not a lease option. I actually bought a house here in Chesterfield. Who's from here in St. Louis? Who's from here? Okay, I bought a house in Chesterfield here, and it was about a $300,000 house, thinking that I could put maybe 10 into it and flip it and make 70 or 80 real quick. Didn't quite turn out that way. Didn't have enough of an education yet. But it didn't take long before I was starting to do deals, doing deals. And I started getting more mentors. I started making a little bit of money. My first deal, I did not make any money on. I lost $86,000 on that first deal in Chesterfield, which I did not have. So I cashed out my 401k and I said, I'm not quitting. I'm not going back to corporate. I'm not doing that crap anymore. I stressed the hell out for about a year and I just kept going. Pretty soon, a couple months later, I did my second deal. That one was in Jennings. Quite a bit different environment. But that one I made 15 grand on. It wasn't a slam dunk, but it was enough to pay the bills for a little bit. Did another one in Jennings, made about 20 grand on that one. Pretty soon I started doing some all over the St. Louis County area, and it started to work. And then I had some money to start investing in some further education and some coaching. So I found a guy named Chris Kirshner, who was, man, he's one of the best speakers I had ever seen in my life. He's not in the circuit anymore. But I started learning from Chris, and Chris said, I'm going to show you how to build an empire. Because that's what he had. I thought, man, that sounds sexy. Let me go build an empire like Chris has. And pretty soon I started getting employees, and I got an office, and I built a brokerage. I had 17 employees in my office, and we were doing all kinds of deals. Flips, rehabs, wholesales, short sales were my thing back then. And next thing you know, I'm flipping, within 3 years, I was flipping 70 to 80 houses a year. Sounds pretty sexy, yes? Well, maybe. My expenses also went up with the number of deals I started doing. So I was making a lot of money. I was bringing in a lot of money. But at that point, my expenses now, just to open my doors, were $34,000 a month. Between the office space, marketing expenses, employee costs. So here's one of the challenges with real estate. I had fixed expenses and variable income. If you're flipping, that's going to happen. So fixed expenses mean my expenses were the same every month whether or not I do a deal. Variable income means that I might flip 3 houses this month or 4 houses this month, or I might flip 0. Is it possible in this crazy world to go through a month or 2 without flipping a house? Yes or no? Real loud.
Yes.
Of course it is. It's possible to go 3 months. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the saddest days in my life was the day that I actually made the most I'd ever made on a flip. I made $102,000 on a flip. And I got home and I cried. People were like, did you cry tears of joy? No! I felt like complete shit. People were like, why? Because in that moment, I realized I had $102,000 go into my bank account. My expenses are 34 grand a month. So how many months of freedom did that just buy me? 3. Not even 3. That sucks. Now, here's what I'm telling you that story. One of the things I'm going to talk about today is vision work, which is the most important work you'll ever do in your life. And I did not have one. What I was doing was living the vision of the mentors that I had hired, and I was living the vision of what I thought their lives looked like. Now here's what I learned shortly after I started getting coaching from Chris. I say shortly, 2 years after I started getting coaching from Chris. Chris and I became very, very good friends after that. And I'll never forget, Chris called me up one day, and he's like, I just had the best and the worst day of my entire life. I said, what happened? He said, well, made $850,000 net today. I said, wow, it's a pretty good day. How's it a bad day? And he said, right after I got back to my hotel room, my wife called me and she said, I'm leaving you. Our 2 kids don't know you. I don't know you at all, and you work all the time, and we're out. So the entire house is packed. We left a few things for you. We don't want the house. We don't want any of it. We're out. And they're gone. And here I am modeling every single thing in my business off of what he did in his business. No wonder why I don't have a life anymore. I'm actually not creating my own vision for my own life. I'm living the vision that Chris had for his because I only saw the sexiest parts of it. Was that all of it? No, that was the Facebook profile. You know what I'm talking about? You look at Facebook, what do people post? Do they post what they're struggling with today most of the time, or do they post the things that look the most glorious? Yeah, so it is your responsibility to come up with your own vision of what you want for your life and what you want for your own business. I'm going to give you some tools today that are going to show you how to do that. And it's a simple process. It's not easy to pull off, but that's what Kevin was talking about. Kevin started going through and doing the vision process on his own. He started applying what it is that he learned. And his vision is not mine. It looks different than mine. But he started living life according to what he wanted to look. Here's what people want. Why do you get into real estate in the first place? What is it that you're hoping for? Financial freedom? Good. What else? That's it? What else? What is it? Retirement? Okay, good. What else? That's really good. Yeah. Legacy? Good. I want my time back. Good. What else?
Family business.
Generational wealth? What? Family business?
Family business.
Family business? Okay, cool. Here's what it is that you really want, because I've asked this question for years and years and years. Because everybody's going to say financial freedom, time, I want to leave a legacy, whatever. Here's what you want. You want 4 words. Life on your terms. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, what are your terms? What are your terms? Do you have your terms? Have you thought through all of your terms? Do you know what they are inside and out? Can you recite them like this? Are they in writing? Do you look at them every single week before you plan your week? If the answer is no, I'm going to tell you right now, 99.9% of people can't tell me the answer. If I say, what do you want your life and business to look like? They'll rattle off 3 or 4 or 10 things, and it's not enough. So what I do today is I help people do 2 things. I help people live their personal vision, design and live it, and I help people design and live their business vision. That's it. Now, there's a third component in between both of these. If you were taking notes, the thing in between these is what's your role within the business, because that's really important too. Because you can have a great business vision, but if your role within it sucks the life out of you, it ain't gonna work. If it's not involving some of your passions and interests and actual skill sets, it ain't gonna work. So I want you to have a great business, but not at the expense of a great life. This is what I built. I built a good business, flipping 70, 80 houses a year, and I had no life. I'm working all the time. As a matter of fact, I started to resent my staff because on Friday at 5 o'clock, they would go home and they wouldn't think about work until Monday again. Guess what I thought about all weekend? Work. Guess what Chris Kirshner thought about all weekend? Work. Like, this sucks. I don't want this. So, we got to do this the right way, and I was not doing it. Here's why. A couple things. Clicker. Who in here works, whether in your business or for a company, who in here works 40 hours a week or more? 40 hours a week or more? Let me see hands real high, like you're proud. All right, that's probably 80% of the room. Any rock stars in here, not afraid of hard work? You work 50 hours a week or more? Let me see hands. Good, good, good. All right, anybody working 60 or more? All right, good. Why?
Enjoy it.
You enjoy it? Okay, good. Good. Why else?
Hope.
What is it?
Hope.
Hope? So you're hoping to build something out of the hard work?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Okay, cool. Well, here's what's interesting about that. There's been study after study after study after study after study that says that working 50, 60 hours a week is not productive at all. It's not productive. It becomes counterproductive after about 28 hours. So if you have a laser-focused 28 to 30 hours a week, you can actually accomplish more than you ever could in 50 to 60 hours a week. And this is nuts. It's like, where did 40 hours a week come from anyway? It came from a vision. It just wasn't yours. Think of this. Let's back up. 100 years. Who invented the 40-hour work week?
Henry Ford.
Henry Ford did. You know how he did it? He said, man, I've got one plant, and I've got overproduction of cars I got to produce here. I don't have the money to open a second plant, so I need to get more production out of the same plant. How can I do it? And he tried to make his workers work more hours, 50, 60 hours a week, and he burned them out real quick. So he said, here's what I could do. What if I came up with 2 shifts or even 3 shifts, and I got production working 24 hours a day out of the same plant? And so there's 24 hours in a day, divide that by 3. If he got 3 different 8-hour shifts running in the plant, he could triple the production without tripling the costs of building an entirely new plant. He'd have more labor costs, but that's no problem because he's selling the cars. And so here all of a sudden the 40-hour work week is born, and now here we are, more than 100 years, like 108 years now at this point later, and now can you even get benefits with a company unless you work at least 36 to 40 hours a week? Usually not. That ain't your vision? But that's become the new norm now because somebody else had a vision and now we've adopted it. So this vision stuff is really powerful. I just want to make sure that it's yours that you're living, not somebody else's. Not your parents, not what your spouse thinks you should be doing, not what Henry Ford says you should do. And look, if you work 60, 70 hours a week because you enjoy it, that's fine. Here's what I'll tell you. Depending on how long you've been doing that schedule. See, I get workaholics that tell me this all the time. I love working 70 hours a week. And I'll ask them, I'll say, well, how long have you been doing that schedule? Most of the time, they've been doing that for years and years and years. I say, what else do you love? They say, I love work. Yeah, that's because they've been doing it so long, they don't know what else they love. They've never taken the time to explore other things that they love just as much or more. Or that was conditioned into them at such a young age that they were taught that the only way to receive love is to perform. And so they perform and they perform and they perform. And next thing you know, they don't have a life because life is about performance. That's fine if that's what you want. But don't just settle for that because that's the only thing you know. I get this all the time. I've coached, thousands of people at this point over 18 years. I've seen all the patterns over and over and over again. When I get somebody going from 70 hours a week to a really productive 30 hours a week, they make more money, they do less of the crap that they don't want to do, and they have more time for some other things that they actually didn't even know that they want to do. One of my guys started learning how to fly a helicopter. He never even knew he wanted to do that. I've had other people taking dance lessons that didn't think they even wanted to take dance, all kinds of crazy stuff. Traveling the world, all kinds of stuff. So 40 hours a week is not your vision, so make sure you're living yours. And I'm going to show you a really cool tool here in a second on how you can know exactly how many hours a week you should work. It's real simple. So, a couple things here. According to Inc. magazine, 85% of people in the workforce, not just people with jobs, people with businesses, this means in the workforce, 85% of them hate more than 50% of what they do for a living. Hate it. That's interesting to me when I read that. Second piece was 93% of New Year's resolutions fail by January 31st. We all know this. You've heard this before, right? Why is that? Why do you think that is? Give me some ideas.
Change.
What is it?
Change. They can't change.
Change. Because they can't change. Okay, that's good. Good. What else?
No plan.
No plan? That's very good. Good. What else? Well, think about this for a second. Anybody had a goal to lose weight? Anybody ever had a goal to lose weight before?
That's me.
All right. Do you? All right. Do you not know how to lose weight?
January 1st.
It's not that hard. Move more, eat a little less or different. It's not that difficult. So it's not that we don't always know how. There's got to be more to it than this. Here's what I'll tell you. Goal setting, which is what a New Year's resolution is, it doesn't work by itself. It doesn't work. It's a goal without a vision. So when you have a goal, chances of it working are the same chances of a New Year's resolution working. Now, if you've got a vision behind it, and I know this is a simple twist of words, but if you've got a crystal clear vision on what it is, and you got enough why, oomph behind it, your chances of achieving it go way, way, way up. Way up. I've seen people pull off stuff that I actually thought was impossible for them to do, and they did it. But it's not because they had a goal. It's because the vision came first. Then once the vision's crystal clear, I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. Once the vision's crystal clear, then you break that down into some goals to help you get closer to the overall vision. Okay? The goal setting doesn't come first, and most people teach you to do goal setting. I've been to goal setting workshops and seminars so many times over the years, and I've hit some of them, and a lot of them I haven't hit. Or I hit one goal. How many of you ever have hit one goal, but in the attainment of that one goal, a lot of other things got sacrificed in the process? Who's ever done that? I have too, man. I had one goal one time. It was a really big, lofty goal for me. I was committed and dedicated to hitting it. Everything else in my life suffered as a result. I hit the goal. As soon as I hit the goal, I was like, yeah, well, who gives a crap? I haven't seen my friends in 4 months. I haven't gone out to dinner. It was a health goal for me. I'm like, I don't go out to eat anymore. I don't have any fun anymore. I haven't seen my friends. I hit my weight goal. I hit my health goal, but I didn't do it in a way that honors the other things that I say I value. So guess how long that goal lasted? I hit the goal and then I fell off the wagon again because it cost me too much everywhere else. So that sucks. It doesn't work. I'll show you this chart real quick. You can look this up later. If you're taking notes, jot this down. It's a really cool thing. You can look this up online. This is not my contact or my information. But Ikigai is this really cool saying. Supposedly it was some Japanese proverb meaning a reason for being. I actually think some white dude made it up. I don't know that for sure, but it basically says, look, if you love what you do, if the world needs it, if you can be paid for it, and if you're good at it, and you combine those 4 things, you have Ikigai. You got a really cool thing going. But if you're missing any component to it, then you're not going to be balanced. You're not going to have what it is that most people really want. So let's say you have what the world needs, and you can be paid for it, but it's not what you love, and you may or may not even be the best at it. Well, then you might have a job, a vocation, right? Or if you're really good at something and you love it, but you can't be paid for it, and the world doesn't really need it, then you got a passion. For me, that's guitar. Like the whole world does not need another average to slightly above average guitar player. But I love it. I love it. I do it with my friends. It's a blast. You know, we'll play in the band every once in a while. It's a really good time. Those guys are thrilled that we can go out and do a show and they make $150, which I think is insane. They're carrying like $7,000 worth of equipment halfway across town in a $200 car to go make $150. But, you know, it's fun. That's never going to be Ikigai for me. That is not going to make money. It's just fun. It's passion for me. And so my goal is for each of you to have something that you're doing that you love it, the world needs it, where they're willing to pay you for it because you're good at it. If you get those 4 things going together, you got something really special, because now when you get up in the morning, I'm still not suggesting you should work 80 hours a week. What I am suggesting is when you get up in the morning, you'll love it. And here's what I'll tell you about the real estate business. Every single avenue that you choose to go down, whether it's rentals or wholesaling or anything that you're learning here, they're all great. Some of them are going to fit your personality a little bit better than others, but all of them are going to have roles within it that don't fit your personality. And so those roles have to get done. So for example, in my business, there's accounting. I can do accounting. I can sit there and plug numbers into a spreadsheet. I want to gouge my eyes out while I'm doing it. And so I don't do the accounting in my business. Now, it doesn't mean it doesn't need to get done. It just means that that's probably not the best use of my time, because what takes my bookkeeper about an hour to do, he does it better than me, and it takes me 10 hours anyway. So now you might say, well, I can't afford a bookkeeper yet. Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Because yes, you can. What you can't afford to do is spend 10 hours a week doing something that sucks the life out of you, when you could be doing something else that fits your vision that will actually bring in income to pay for the bookkeeper in the first place. You can get that right, you get it figured out. So I'm going to leave this at this for right now, because there's tons of videos on this on YouTube. You can look it up. But I did want to show you this because this is really a cool thing. You know, find what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, what you can be paid for. And then you never work again. You never really feel like you're working. You feel like you're having fun. Right? If you can do some of that with people that you really enjoy being around, you'll really love your business. Okay. So, I always ask people in their when they start coaching, I'll say, do you feel like you own a business or do you feel like the business owns you? Most people will tell me they feel like the business owns them. And the reason I'll know that is because I'll say, how often do you think about the business when you're not in it? I think about it nights and weekends. Okay, then do you own a business or does it own you? Are you building it that way? Or are you building it in a way where it will actually be a business that feeds you whether or not you go to work today? Now, I've figured some of this stuff out. Some of my students have figured this out a lot better than me. But I'll share with you a story here at the end where, man, you don't think you need it to be a business until you get hurt or something comes up and you actually can't work. Changes your perspective a little bit, which happened to me this year. So honor these things, you don't feel like you're working anymore. Now here's how we're going to do it. Instead of starting with goals, which as you can see is in the middle of my screen here, that's not where you start. Where you start is on the outer ring. You start with the overall, what's the purpose? First of all, what's your purpose? What's the purpose of the business? Love to figure that out, get that started first. Then what's the vision? When I say vision, I mean seeing it better than it is before it happens. And you got to be able to vision this out. I'll show you how to do this here in just a second. From there, you can start to set goals. Now for me, goals are usually set in about 3 to 4 month chunks. And the reason I do 3 to 4 month chunks is because I coach people and we have coaching retreats every 4 months. Yes, every 4 months throughout the year. So we do January, May, September. And I usually want people to reset their goals at this coaching retreat to start planning between now and the next coaching retreat. So goals to me, like I remember when I sat down with a goal setting buddy of mine years ago, a guy named Yates Harrison here in St. Louis. This was probably 2004. He said, let's be goal setting buddy. That's okay, great. So we sat down and we worked on our stuff individually and then we swapped papers. And I looked at his and I'm thinking, he did this all wrong. I said, Yates, everything on here is your goals from like 30 years from now. How do you even see that far out? And he goes, yours are wrong. Yours are all like the next 2 weeks. And I go, I can't see out 30 years. And he goes, well, why would you bother 2 weeks out? That's not far enough out. And we're both kind of debating this, in a friendly way. But neither one of us were right. We were trying to figure out how to do goals before we had a vision. So here's what the vision is. The vision is if you could wave your magic wand and have life look any way you wanted it to look right now, how would it look? Not 30 years from now, not 2 weeks from now. If you could do it right now, what would you dream? That's what a vision is. Okay? And what you have to do in order to do this is you have to suspend your current reality, your current situation, your current bills, your current, whatever it is that you're dealing with. You have to put that to the side for a second. You're currently what your spouse wants for you or what your kids want or your parents or anything. Stick it all to the side and then you got to get really selfish for just a little bit. And go, man, if I could wave a magic wand, how would I have it look? That's vision. I'll show you one thing here in a minute where I'll teach you how to do that. Because from there, you can say, okay, what do I need to do with one thing in my vision to get a little closer to that in the next 3 to 4 months? So let's just say, who in here has debt of any kind? Good debt, bad debt, any kind of debt whatsoever. Let me see hands real high like you're real proud. Look around the room. Who has debt? It's almost every hand, if not every hand in here. Let me ask you a question. Did any of you ever sit down, write out a vision and say, you know what I want in my life more than anything? What I really want is some debt. Do this? No! No one ever does. It's like, why do you have it? Well, because you've been told that in order to get what you want, you need to have it. And it doesn't matter if it's good debt or bad debt. Look, I spoke on stage with Kiyosaki for years. I used to blatantly challenge what he teaches about good debt and bad debt on his stage, and they would invite me back every time. I couldn't figure it out. But I would say, look, we've all heard about good debt, bad debt. What about no debt? What if you could accomplish the exact same things you're trying to accomplish without debt at all? What if you could do that by still acquiring a rental property portfolio, by taking on funding partners instead of debt partners? What if there was structures that you could come up with if debt wasn't even an option? And people would, their ears would perk up and say they're out there. You just don't think of them because it's an option for you. So yeah, you don't have to have debt. I had $2 million in debt when I started going through this vision stuff. And at no point when I was writing out my vision, my first vision was I didn't have somebody to teach me how to do this. It took me 6 months to figure it out. But as I looked at it, I'm like, nowhere in here does it say that I want $2 million in debt. But right before I started doing this work, my goal was to get into $4 million more worth of debt that year, because if I did, that would have meant I had more rental properties, more income, which is all great when the rental properties are performing. Is it possible for a tenant not to pay this month? Is it possible for 2 tenants not to? If you have 10 rental properties and 2 or 3 of them don't pay the rent this month, is it possible that your entire profit for the month can go just to pay the bills of the 2 or 3 tenants that aren't paying their bills because you've got debt associated with them? Is that possible? Yes or no?
Yes.
It happens all the time. Is it possible that just that alone, if there's some repairs that need to be done or evictions that need to be done, could take down the other 7? Of course it is. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying, what's your vision say? There's plenty of people who've done it and they've made it work. I'm not saying it's wrong or evil or a sin or anything like that. What I'm suggesting is that wasn't in my vision. So I had to take a hard look at it and go, why do I have this here? What if there's other ways to structure my business in a similar way to give me the similar accomplishment or achievement that I'm looking for without the thing that I don't want? Make sense? So when I looked at that, my vision was become debt-free. My goal was, I was like, what can I do in the next 3 to 4 months to become debt-free? I thought, well, maybe I could pay off 20 grand somewhere. And I looked at that, I'm like, 20 grand out of 2 million? That's nothing. And I got discouraged. But I thought, you know what? If I do that in the next 3 to 4 months, I'm a little bit closer to my vision. So now what can I do? Now we've got some action items we can turn that into this week. What can I do this week to try to get a little closer to paying off my 20 grand, which will get me a little closer to being debt-free of my 2 million. Now I can say, if I look at this every day, I can say, what do I got to do today to get a little closer of my weekly, a little closer to my goal? I know this is simple. Most people don't do it. It's simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. So when I'm looking at an opportunity now, or let's say, like when I go speak, I get business opportunities all the time. People say, you want to partner this business with me, or can you, you're a pretty good speaker. What if you're just the speaker and you can be the speaker for the company? And like I get these offers. And here's what I usually do. First thing I do is I look at my vision. And I say, does this offer fit the vision? Most of the time, right off the bat, the answer is no. But also, most of the time, I'm interested because it sounds like a sexy offer where I can make lots of money. So saying no is really hard. Here's what I'll tell you about the vision. It is the most important document you can have in front of you to learn how to say no to things that don't fit. And people don't get it because they go, what if we did this together? And I say, nope. I say, why not? We could make lots of money. And I say, it doesn't fit my vision. And their head goes, what do you mean? We're going to make a lot of money. I said, I don't care how much money it makes. I'm not doing it. It doesn't fit. I just had this happen with a marketing company recently. I have one coaching program. It's real simple. I coach people. I mastermind with them 3 times a year. I don't personally work with newbies, brand new newbies anymore. Some of my coaches that work for my organization do. But I don't, because I like working with medium to advanced investors, business owners. Some of my coaches, they love working with newbies. That's fine. That's great. But I have one program. It's very simple. $20,000 to join, it's $1,500 a month. And so just the pricing alone factors out some of the people who aren't ready for it, which is just fine. But I had a marketing company recently that I was working with, this is last year, and they're like, here's what we're gonna do. We got the marketing all figured out for you. You're not gonna have to speak so much. We're gonna do some internet marketing, and but we're gonna have 2 different programs. We're gonna have one baseline program. It's gonna be like $300 a month. And we're going to sell tons of it for you. I did this for another company. We're going to sell tons of it for you, but it'll be more group coaching. And he didn't even finish the sentence, and I said, nope. And he goes, why not? He goes, what I'm talking to you about can scale. You can't scale this when you're working with people one-on-one. I said, I don't care. The answer is no. He kept going and kept going and kept going. Now I have my staff on the phone with me. I had my coaches with me, and I had my assistant with me. And he kept going with it, and all of a sudden now my staff kicks in. And they're like, hey dude, he said the answer is no, and it doesn't matter how many times you keep repeating, the answer is no. We know what the vision is for his life and business, and we know what the vision is for the company. That ain't gonna happen. It doesn't matter how much money that makes. He doesn't want to do it. And the guy hardly knew what to say. He's like, but I built this, and I created hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for this other company. I said, the answer is no, I'm not interested. People don't know what to do with that. It's like, it's fine, it's a great idea, but the answer is no. And the only way I can say no to those things that don't fit is this vision's got to be crystal clear, so that I can say yes to the things that do fit. Does that make sense? All right. Now, so what does that result in? When I started doing this, I told you I had $34,000 a month going out the door, $2 million worth of expenses. It's not like that anymore. Doing the vision stuff, it works. It takes a minute, but you give it a year, a lot of things can change in a year. Out of that vision, I built a 7-figure business. I only have to work in it 5 days a month. I'm not saying it is to brag or anything like that. Any one of you can do this, but it takes some vision work to do it. It takes learning how to do it from other people too, once your vision is clear. But 5 days a month is all I have to work. If I want to work more than that, I certainly can. Or if I want to vacation the rest of the month, I certainly can too. But I have one assistant. I don't have a lot of overhead anymore. I have one assistant. She works, by the way, I don't allow her to work 50, 60 hours a week. She usually works 15, maybe 20 hours a week. When we do an event or a coaching session, which is 3 times a year, maybe she'll work 40 or 50 hours that week, and so will I. And we love it, and then as soon as we're done, we go back to the normal schedule. So I'm not just building a company off the backs of other people who are all working 60 hours a week so that I can work less. I expect the same thing from me out of them. No debt. My bills are very, very low today. Actually, some of those have just changed recently because I took my eye off of them, getting a handle on some of those again. The average stick rate in the coaching world is 4 to 6 months. That means that when people join a coaching program, they stay in 4 to 6 months and then they're out. That's the average across the nation. I coach a lot of national coaches. In my groups, it's probably changed a little bit in the last year or two because I got sick. But it was about 4 to 6 years was my average stick rate. So when somebody joins, they join and they stay in for 4 to 6 years. It might be a little less than that right now. I love what I do. That's a big one. And I get to live the vision, which is really, really cool. So again, not saying any of this to be some arrogant jerk face. There's days that I don't love it. Everybody has days like that. But for the most part, I wake up and I really, really enjoy it. Right? And that's my goal for all of you guys. So how do you do it? Well, you design it that way. So for example, how many of you would love to travel more than you do right now? Who would love to travel more, see the world more? Okay. Are you designing your business in a way that allows you to do that? Or are you designing it in a way that you have to serve it so often that even when you're on, who here has ever worked while you're on vacation? You brought your laptop, your phone, and you work while you're on, that's not vacation, man. It's not the same thing. I just went to Utah for 2 weeks. I actually took a bunch of our leadership boardroom coaching members. We drove Jeeps out in the desert for 2 weeks. And it was a blast. And I did not bring my laptop. I didn't work while I was there. How did you do it? I designed it that way. Designed it that way so that I could take 2 weeks, go on a trip, not have to handle it. Now, things need to be put in place in order to pull that off. But once you have the vision element, I want to take a 2-week vacation and not be bothered while I'm gone, you'll figure out how to set goals to make that happen. But it's got to be a vision element first. So, crystal clear personal vision. I knew I wanted to go on vacation 2 weeks and not be bothered with work. Crystal clear business vision. Here's how I'm going to pull it off within the business. Oh, also, remember what I said before, you got to know what your roles are going to be. I'm going to show you that here in just a second. And then finally, you got to execute, man, massive execution on this stuff. And hopefully you've surrounded yourself with a team of people who can help you get there. And it doesn't mean you have to hire them, doesn't mean you have to have high salaries for them, things like that. It could be just accountability partners that you find right here in the room. So let me show you a couple tools here that I'm going to give you guys. Take your phones out, take a picture of this real quick if you don't mind. So this is one of the tools I use when people join my coaching group. I'll ask them, I'll say, hey, I want you to fill this out, rate yourself on a 1 to 10 scale where you feel like you are versus where you'd like to be in each of the categories. These are things like, how's your family life, 1 to 10? How is your love relationship? How's your friendships? How's your spiritual life? This is all the personal vision elements. What does your spiritual life and your faith look like, 0 to 10? How about fun and entertainment? How much fun you having? And I'll ask them to fill this out, and oftentimes it will look something like this. Now, this is always interesting to me. So this person, this is a real one, by the way, this person has a great family life, they've got great friends, they're scoring themselves an 8. Still room for improvement, but still pretty good. Love and relationships, pretty decent. It's at a 6. But look at this. Finances look pretty good too. They're doing pretty well financially. This guy's about 100 pounds overweight. He scored himself a 4, which I think is higher than he should have scored himself. And look at this fun and entertainment. So he has good friends. He's got a good family. His business is doing pretty decent. He's not personally growing all that much. His health is terrible, so no matter how much money he has, this guy's not going to be around long enough to enjoy it if his health sucks. And he's not having any fun at all. At all. He scored himself a 3 in the fun category. So I said, is this what you want? He's like, no. So when I started digging in a little bit, I said, what's been your solution to making these things better? And he said, well, I just increase my speed. I just try to do more. And I said, okay, think of it like this. Think of it like this is a wheel on one of your cars. If your wheel looks like this, or if your tire looks like this, is the answer to speed up. What if you speed up and your wheel looks like this? What's going to happen? Yeah, man, everything starts to fall apart. So these are some of the categories you can get started with. These aren't like the categories. You can add whatever you want for your personal vision. But when I say, what do you want life on your terms, what I'm asking you is, what does a 10 look like in each of these categories? So what does a 10 look like for you with health? And you may say, well, I don't know, because I just don't like eating healthy and I don't like to exercise. Okay, well, what does 10 look like for you? What if you could wave a magic wand and looked any way that you wanted it to look? How would it look if it could be a 10? This is where you got to suspend current reality. You can't say, well, I've tried diets before, it doesn't work. Okay, well, then if I ask somebody that, they may say, well, if it could look any way I wanted it to look, I would actually know, which I don't right now, but I would know about foods that were healthy, that I really looked forward to eating, and I would find some activities that I really looked forward to doing. That would be cool. I don't know what those are right now. That's the beginning of a vision. You know, and you may say, well, my family sucks. You don't know my family, they're awful. Forget about your current family for a second. If you could have the family of your dreams, what would that look like? You could wave a magic wand. Just start dreaming for a second. It's not easy to do. It's simple. Okay? Let's look at business. If I look at a business wheel, let me back up to this for a second. Now think about something. I'm going to go back to this other screen for just a second. If I start to fill out, let's just say I take out a piece of paper and I start filling each one of these things out. What would I do if personal growth for me looked like a 10? What would that look like? Man, for me, I'd go to like 3 or 4 seminars a year maybe that I really wanted to learn things about. I might even take some classes of things that I would learn about. I would love to get a little bit more aligned in my faith over here. All of these things, if I start identifying what a level 10 looks like and just start applying it to paper, then I could start doing the next step, which is this. I could pull out a fake calendar and I could just say, look, if I were living this pretend vision today and I started applying it to a calendar, how much time would it take for me to live my vision every single week? And notice I'm putting everything personal on here first. These are all personal items. There's no work in here yet. Pretty soon, calendar, if I'm living my vision, starts filling up pretty quick. Have I put work in here yet? Not yet. Now again, I'm not living my vision yet, but if I'm doing this, I don't have 50 or 60 hours left a week to work. I have 24 hours left per week to work. Not 50, not 60. This is an opposite approach to the way most people do it. What do most people do? Do most people put their business stuff and their obligations in their calendar first and then try to fit in obligations with what's left? Do they, yes or no?
Yes.
And then what happens? Do all the personal things actually end up making it in?
No.
Nope, this is a reverse engineering approach to doing it. Most people don't do it this way at all. So I'm not here to tell you, don't compare yourself with how your life looks compared to Chris Kirshner's or your mentors or anybody here. I want you to start comparing yourself to whether or not you're living life on your terms. But in order to do that, what do you got to figure out? What your terms are. That's what you got to figure out. Okay? All right, so let's look at the wheel of business real quick. Business looks a little bit different. There's all kinds of stuff that comes into business. So these are things like, what does your coaching and training and development look like within your organization? And I say organization, it might just be you. You may not have a team yet. That's okay. What does the coaching and training look like for yourself? One of the things that I wrote down in my vision years ago, which was not true at all when I wrote it, I wrote down, I want to coach high caliber business owners, and I want to just know what I'm doing so much that they come to me for advice, questions, feedback, things like that. Now when I wrote that down, I'm like, nobody's got any business coming to me for anything. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I wrote it down anyway. So what kind of coaching am I going to need to develop into that role? Do my roles match my skill sets? In other words, am I in the role of accounting 8 hours a day and it doesn't match my skill set or my interest? If so, I must score myself like a 1. Right? How about if I have an executive team or a partner? How does that look? Are they the right partner? Are they the right team or my actual team? How does my culture look? It doesn't mean just culture with just yourself. How does culture look with your contractors? Are you dealing with people that you have to babysit every single day? Or are you dealing with mature, responsible adults that you love working with? You have a blast with it because the culture's fantastic. What about your operations? Is everything in your business set up to be a structure and a system and a process? Or are you making it up every single time you do the exact same thing? Right? What about accounting? How does that look? Do you know your numbers inside out within your business? Or are you guessing every single month? What about your finances? Your finances looking good within the company, or are they looking terrible? How about marketing? Is the marketing for your organization completely dependent on you to pull off every single day? If so, you ain't going on vacation for 2 weeks. Same thing with sales. Now this is one of my weak areas here. This is sales. This is what I'm trying to get better at next. Because the sales for me and my company, most of them come from me, and most of them come from when I speak on stage. Which, by the way, I'm not selling anything here today, I'm just here to give. But when I go speak on stage, I usually speak to audiences, and the host of that place asks me to come in and speak and sell some things, and then we do a revenue share. So I'm the speaker of the company, and that tends to be where most of our sales come from. So this year we're working on getting better at some sales and marketing stuff. And the reason that we're doing that is because I can't have that completely determined by whether or not I show up to speak. Otherwise, the company doesn't work without me. Make sense? Okay. Your customer experience, rate that 1 to 10. How's that look? Or do they have a phenomenal experience? Are your customers that you work with, are they such raving fans that they keep coming back to you for more? By the way, speaking of customer experience, do you have a one and done customer? In other words, are you selling them one house and then you're done? Or are you giving them such a phenomenal experience that they're doing something else to either refer other people to you, or do you have some kind of recurring revenue component built into your business where you don't have to be so good at marketing and sales every single month? All of these things are interesting and important. How crystal clear is your vision for the company, and how well does your team understand it? Do they know what it is? This sounds so dumb. I have people that have been in my coaching group now one of my guys has been in my coaching group for like 12, 13 years. Still to this day, every single time we do a retreat, I remind everybody in the retreats, what's the purpose of this retreat? 2 things. Design and live your personal vision, design and live your business vision. I remind them every single time. That's the mission and the vision for the entire company. And guess how many people forget? Most of them. These are people I've been coaching for years, and in those settings, I'll say, hey man, when's the last time you looked at your vision? They go, man, it's been 6 months ago. Like, what do you think we're doing around here? They forget. Me too. I teach it, I still forget it. It's still the vision for the company. All right? So somebody may look like this. They fill it all out. You can see here they're good at certain things, not so good at other things. But again, the vision for the company is, what would a 10 look like in all these categories? This is life on your terms with the business. Making sense so far?
Yeah.
Okay. I hope you took a picture of this, because if you're willing to do some work around this, which is just write out what a 10 would look like, even if you do nothing else, you'll start gravitating towards it. But if you take that one step further, you start breaking that down into some goals and into some action items, you start looking at it every single week. Man, you do that just a little bit over the course of the next year, life could look totally different 1 year from today than it does right now. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. All right, just a little bit more, and then I'm going to get you out of here. So how do we do this? Well, I'm going to go through this really fast because this is a 3-day process that I normally take people through an event that I teach usually once or twice a year. It's called the Business Vision Workshop, but here's basic gist of it. Take people through 4 steps. First step is what we've been talking about, which is dare to dream. This is all crafting the vision. You got to dream just a little bit. Start to dream. And that means get yourself out of your current circumstance, your current situation. Start dreaming just a little bit. All right? What would life look like? What would business look like if you could have it look any way that you want to? You could wave a magic wand tomorrow. You wake up, it's automatically there. That's dreaming. For some of you, that's really easy to do. For some of you, not so much. I'll show you how to do that in a second. Number 2. Stage 2 is know yourself. What are you good at? What do you suck at? What do you enjoy doing? What, if you had your choice, would you never do again? Like for me, accounting, right? When I started understanding myself within the business, I realized most of my skill set comes from communication, talking with people, speaking from stage, teaching, educating, learning, things like that. It is not in the, I can implement, there's no doubt I can implement, but I'm a much better communicator than I am an implementer of all things. So I wanted to make sure that most of my role within the company was communications instead of implementing all the minute details. So now my assistant fills in all of the details that I don't do well, and she's phenomenal at that. Guess what? She doesn't want to speak, educate, teach, coach, none of that. And so I let her do what she's really, really good at, and then I do what I'm really good at. I love it. She loves it too. I give her tasks that I apologize for in advance, because it's like, will you please organize all this mess and make it look pretty and like do the details? And she's like, oh my God, yes. And I'm thinking, I would rather blow my brains out than do that right now. She loves it. And I love that she loves it. I don't understand how she loves it, but she loves it. So then stage 3. This is a little bit what we just did with the wheels. We got to define where are we at right now on the wheel. And then from there we come up with a strategic plan. How are we going to get from where we're at on the wheel to where it is that we want to go? I know I'm going over this quick, but that's when we start. Stage 4 is where we set up goals. Not in stage 1, which is where I was always taught before. You'll start with goals. That's the last step of the process. Now we come up with goals and a game plan. And now, like, you may need help with all of this, but at the very least, if I've got some goals, let's say one of them was to pay off $2 million worth of debt, if that's a goal of mine, are there people out there that have paid off $2 million of debt before? Yeah, so now I can find the right mentor that I'm looking for. So if I'm looking to pay down debt real fast, I can find somebody who already paid off $2 million in debt, figured out what strategy they use, and I can lightning fast my entire process by copying what they did for that piece. But I gotta be careful, because I may not copy all of their pieces, because what if the rest of their vision doesn't look the same as mine? This is where you gotta get careful. I copied all of Chris Kirshner's entire recipe on how to run a business, and it sucked the life out of me. That's why I woke up making $102,000 on a deal, frustrated as hell, because that literally bought me 3 months of freedom. By the way, Chris, who made $850,000 that day, that didn't buy him more than about 4 or 5 months worth of freedom. That's how high his expenses were. I remember him telling me how pissed off he used to get because he had this huge house in Atlanta, and I remember him telling me how pissed off he used to be because he had a nanny that would stay at their house, and the nanny would tell him all the time how much she just loved living in the house and how much she enjoyed using the pool, and it's just such a great opportunity to be here. And he's like, I haven't swum in my pool this entire summer. He's like, I'm hardly ever at home. He would travel all over the country for work. He's like, she enjoys my house more than me, and she's getting paid to do it. I'd rather have her life. I didn't know that, but I'm learning from him. It just looked great because he would show me pictures of the house. I didn't realize he hadn't been there in 3 months. So be careful who you learn from, all right? Last thing, and then I'm going to get you out of here. Disney does this really, really cool concept that I learned a few years ago, where if you work at the Disney organization, you work in one of 3 departments, basically. So think of it like this. One department is called the Imagineers. What do you think they do?
Dream.
Yeah, they imagine, they dream. These are the artsy-fartsy people. They dream up new stuff. They're very artistic. They love to create, right? Second category is called the Engineering department. What do you think they do? Yeah, they actually design, they engineer, they take the ideas from the Imagineers, and they start to figure out a plan. How are we going to actually make this work? The third department is, they call it something different. I call it the implementation department. What do you think they do? They take the dream that's been dreamt up, the engineering plans that have now been created, and they make it happen. They actually build the thing, the ride, the movie, whatever it is. So think about this for a second. My buddy shared this with me and it blew my mind. He said, in business, you need all three. Here's the problem when you're a solopreneur. You can't be all three at once. And I said, explain what you mean. And he goes, well, think about it. When you work at Disney, if you're in the Imagineering department, you are not allowed to share anything going on in that department with any of the engineers. Engineers are not allowed in the same room as the Imagineers ever. And I said, why not? He goes, think about it. If the engineers are in the same, let's say there's 10 Imagineers and they're all brainstorming ideas. What if we did this movie? Or what if we made this ride? Or what if we did this? And the engineers are in the room at the same time. What do you think would happen in that room as the dreamers are dreaming and the engineers are in there trying to figure out how to make it happen? Yeah, the engineers would poo-poo all over the ideas, because that's what engineers do. And their engineers aren't crapping on the ideas, they're trying to do their job, which is to figure out, well, how are we going to pull this off? So there's a point and a purpose for them, but not yet. So, when the implementers come around too, the implementers just want the plan. They're like, I don't care how you got there, just tell me what to build, give me the plan, I'm going to figure it out and do it. Now, all of you in this room tend to be more strengthened in one of these areas. Like you're much better in one of these areas than others. Who in here, out of curiosity, who in here is really good and loves to dream? Let me see hands. Who in here is the dreamers, the Imagineers? Okay, all right, that's great. But if you're dominant as a dreamer and you have no one else around you to implement, is it possible that you'll sit around and dream all day and nothing will get done? Absolutely. Of course. Who in here are dominant engineers? You like to pick things apart, figure out how stuff works, and try to plan and do things like that. You like to engineer how things are going to get done. Okay, great. You guys are awesome. Brilliant people, usually. How many of you are already sick of me talking about all this crap and you're just like, just show me how to do it. You're the implementers. All right, that's fine. Yeah, we're not going to get along. No, look, we need each other. We all need each other. Here's the problem. If you're a solopreneur, there's times that you need to become each one of these things. So what happens if you're trying to dream up what you're going to do next in your business, and you're dreaming, and then inside of you, the inner engineer kicks in at the same time? What happens? You start figuring out how you're going to pull it off before you've even got crystal clear on what you want to pull off. What do you think that does to your creativity? It stifles it. It's done. How many of you in here have ever had an idea, you can't figure out how to do it, and so you don't push forward with it at all? Who's done this? I have too. And he said, here's what he told me. He goes, you know what? Everybody can be an Imagineer, even if it's just for 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. He said, I am not an Imagineer by nature. He said, but I can become one. He said, I actually go to one restaurant every time I need to become an Imagineer, which is not all that often. But I go to that one restaurant, sit at the same table, and I put my Imagineer hat on, and I say I'm going to be an Imagineer for 15 minutes. My inner engineer is not allowed in the room. I'm just going to dream for a little bit. I don't care how I'm going to pull it off yet. I don't need to implement any of it. I can change it all as soon as I'm done. But I'm just going to dream for a minute. He said, that's how I do it. He said, then when it comes to engineering, he goes, that's where my skill set is. That's my nature. So that I can do. He said, that I really enjoy doing. Now I can start to engineer it. And he goes, and I can implement too, but that's not really my skill set. I'd much rather figure out the design and how it's going to work and then hand it off to somebody else. So I said, that's freaking brilliant, man. I said, I'm more of a dreamer. I can imagine things, and I can even engineer things. That's what I do in my coaching business all the time. But I want to dream the things up. I want to design them, and then I don't want to do them, which is why I do coaching. Because I can help other people dream. I can dream alongside with them. I can actually completely turn that into an engineered plan, and then their team or they themselves actually implement it, and I don't have to. So I learned how to turn that piece into a business so I can focus on my strengths and then not have to focus on my weaknesses. Does that make sense? I'm not suggesting that's you. I'm just saying this is really, really cool stuff. So when it gets down to this, I'm going to go through this one last time, and then we're going to get you guys out of here. First thing you got to do is what? You're to dream. This is where you become the Imagineer. This is always step one. And if you struggle with this area, you're going to need to get some help. That's okay. Some people have a really hard time dreaming and imagining. Maybe you have never been allowed to dream. Maybe your dreams were always stifled by a parent or somebody telling you you can't do that or whatever it is. That's okay. But you can do it. You might need to get some help with it. Okay? Stage number 2, you better know yourself. Now, how do you do this? We've got all kinds of tools to do this. First thing you want to do, let me just tell you this real quick. Send one email to 10 or 12 friends, family members, people you've worked with in the past, and ask them, hey, can you tell me when you think of me, what could you count on me for? What do you think I'm good at? They might tell you things that completely shock you. I did this with 17 people. I got back 16 responses. They told me all almost the same things. Man, you're a good communicator. You can take complex stuff, break it down into simple processes and patterns. You can help me see my own stuff a little bit more clear. I feel like I can talk to you. All of the patterns were similar. And I said, okay, well then how can I make sure that my role within the business is around those things? Most of you won't do that, by the way, because I just suggested it a little lightly. If you do just that thing and focus on what your friends and family did, this is huge. Try to send it to a dozen people if you can. Just ask them. When you think of me, what do you count on me for? What do you think I'm good at? What do you think would be a great role for me? Ask them. See what they say. See if you find any patterns within their responses. And try to mix it up. Maybe people that you've worked with in the past, family members, some old friends, new friends. See if they see similar things. That's powerful enough by itself. And then stage 3, where in the world are you now? Well, right now I'm $2 million in debt and I work 90 hours a week. Okay, great. That doesn't mean it's where you got to stay, but how are you going to get from there to where you want to be? And it might be just something like, hey, I'm working 70 hours a week right now. I'd like to cut that down to 66 hours a week. Great. Then what's one thing that we can get off your plate over the course of the next 3 months or 4 months? That's a goal. What's one thing that we can get off your plate in the next 4 months that says you don't have to work 4 more hours a week? One thing. How's that going to get done if you can't do it? All right. You do these 4, and I know I'm going through this really fast. This usually takes me 3 days to teach. But I'm telling you, man, I have seen thousands and thousands of lives change with this stuff, the same way Kevin described this when I got up here a little bit earlier. And I'm telling you, you do a little bit of this. If you do just a little bit of what I talked about today, a little bit each week, just a little bit, it doesn't take much time. Just start your week off, planning a little bit with your vision. It'll change your life. I promise you. Last thing, and I'm done. I had a unfortunate accident earlier this year where I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, went to the bathroom to pee. Don't know what happened, but I woke up 22 or 24 minutes later in a pool of my own blood. I fell backwards, blacked out for whatever reason, hit my head on the floor, and sustained a pretty significant brain trauma injury where I ended up in the ICU for the next 3 weeks. Had I had the same business that I had when I started this vision process, I would have been out of business. Now, I'm not in a place where my business will run for 3 years without me yet. But my team picked up all the pieces. And while I was in it, it took me about 10 weeks. I was out of work. I had 2 brain surgeries. It was a mess. It was the most physical pain I've ever experienced in my life. A lot of emotional pain around it too. But my entire team handled everything while I was gone. All of it. Everything was handled. The revenue did not change. It did a little bit while I was gone, but not enough to make a huge difference. And I was able to come back to work about 10 or 11 weeks later and step right back in, and it was awesome. And had I not done any of this work before, that would have never, ever, ever happened. I had some amazing people that stepped in and took on the things that I was doing. No questions asked. And that's because we built the team around the culture and the things that I've talked about here. They were just amazing people. And I don't have fixed expenses with them. They make money when we all make money together, so that works also. So I just want to challenge you with that. This stuff is really important. I never ever thought I would need that in my entire life. Never in a million years did I ever imagine I would pass out at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's not like I'm 200 years old, man. That shouldn't have happened. The doctors don't know why it happened. But while I was out, I got taken care of, which was really, really amazing. So forget about that for a second. I just want you guys to have a life, have a business that serves you, to have one that you're excited that gets you out of bed in the morning instead of you getting out of bed to do it. And I hope this helps you a little bit. Thank you guys for listening. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Choices. All right. What do y'all think?
They're good.